Hi, everyone. This is Rich Berliner from Charged Up, and I am especially excited today to be with a dear friend and an industry expert, Jason Nelson from WIA. Hi, Jason. Thank you for
Good to
being
be
here.
here, Rich.
Jason, WIA, I oftentimes call it Wireless Industry Association. It's the Wireless Infrastructure Association. Am I correct?
Yes, yep. It's the Infrastructure Association. It's all about wireless infrastructure, whether that's the last mile that's wireless or all the wired network that's in the ground and connecting the towers. So,
Right. As
yep,
we say, there's no wireless without wires. So,
that's it.
but
That's
I
it.
was getting prepping for this. I was telling people that I was having you on today, and their reaction was, what do you need a wireless guy on if you're talking about EV charging? And that same anecdote sort of applies here. There's no wires without wireless without wires. Well, there's no EV charging without wireless. And so you are extremely relevant to this discussion today, and I'm excited to have you. So let's start with that premise. We were just talking before we started on a recording about the fact that this business, the EV charging space, reminds me so much of the wireless business 30 or 35 years ago. And it took that long a time for the companies to consolidate and the network to be built out and all the things that went into it. Even as far as we were laughing about charging cords, there wasn't a universal charging cord until fairly recently. So the opportunity for us to look at the wireless experience and look at that in terms of EV charging is enormous. So where does that leave you in the Infrastructure Association in terms of EV charging? Are you looking at it? How do you view it? And what are you doing with it as a business?
So you mentioned how this space looks very similar to the wireless space of old. I think we are in that early time, right? We have a number of our members at the Wireless Infrastructure Association that are working in this space, that are deploying equipment and are working with whether it's installing or constructing or just connecting this equipment. It certainly is an interesting space for us. It's an area of growth and development, something that we're taking a look at. I don't think we've got any decisions at the moment on how we're going to be existing on the advocacy front in this space, but it is an area that we're taking a look at. I know that we've got a panel at our ConnectX event that'll be coming this May to Chicago, and we're really excited to explore it further at that event.
Will I still need my earmuffs and my gloves in May in Chicago, or will you think it'll be warm by then?
And you never know. I think May is an awesome time in Chicago, usually.
Great.
It shouldn't be too cold unless you're getting right by the lake, then all bets are off. But we're at the McCormick Center, lots of space, should be a really good show. And there's just such a great market there. So many wireless folks are in the region, in the Chicagoland area. So yeah, we're expecting it to be a really good turnout.
Right. And I was really honored to be asked to do a panel at the event about EV charging. Again, I've got a long, long history in the wireless business, and now I've looked over the fence and said, well, EV charging is a near neighbor business for this, but I'm going to be doing a panel at that event on this. I would guess, just as a an uneducated number to throw out there, that 70% maybe of the members of the association without the carriers, of course, but are probably either doing work already in the EV charging space or looking to do work because things ebb and flow in our business. And it's time that people use the skills that they've developed and the knowledge of OSHA regulations and permitting and zoning and all those things to look over the fence and say, hey, that's a cool business. I think I'm going to get involved. So that's why I think this is really very insightful of the association to look and do this sort of thing. And I think it'll turn out really well. And I think so many of the members are interested in this. How do I get into it? What do I need to do? What are the differences? To me, it's just a tower site without the tower. You agree?
I think that's a really interesting perspective. Yeah, there is so much communication, whether it's communication with the vehicle, communication with the charging unit itself, or even just customer expectations of wanting to have connectivity, right? If you're going to be sitting there for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes while your vehicle charges, you're expecting to have some sort of connectivity as part of that process. So I think that there's there's a lot of connectivity that's in this space and a lot of permits and regulations that go around it. And it's once again another opportunity that's been brought to us by the Biden administration with lots of really good funding behind it. Like with the BEAD program, I think we're still waiting to see a lot of that manifest, but hopefully it means a lot of work for the folks in our industry.
Right. So, a couple of things that are interesting there, I think, that you picked up on. There's no EV charging without communications. So, there's a communications board in every unit, and there sometimes they can connect through Wi-Fi and cellular. I know that satellite, for a fact, is coming with that kind of connection. But here's an idea for those folks in the tower business. Every one of these locations that'll be built out with EV charging is going to need connectivity. And in addition to that, while people are sitting in their car, what are they going to be doing? Well, they're going to be calling and downloading from those cars. So beefing up the communications infrastructure everywhere that we're putting charging stations is probably a smart thing. Plus, not all your members are aware. We talked a little bit about this before. The NEVI program, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, is a program to try to put a charging station every 50 miles on every highway in America. That program is like the BEAD program. There's a lot of talk and a lot of money, but not much has been done so far. But eventually, shovels will go in the ground. But that program really is going to need the backup of the communications industry to make it all work. So I think that's another reason how this intersects. And in your position at the association, I think you're in a great seat to help make that happen.
It is one of those things that we are taking a look at from a workforce perspective, right? If a lot of this BEAD money comes at once, we could go from an area of somewhat historic lows, new deployments, to an absolute peak. And this would just be one more log on that fire that could create just a real bottleneck in terms of the available workforce in order to be able to complete this type of connectivity, deployment, construction, et
Right.
cetera.
Well, you and the association built the workforce for the wireless situation for the wireless companies. And now that workforce is able-bodied and ready to go work, whether it's BEAD, whether it's EV charging, whatever. And again, we're on the ground here. The good news is we're on the ground floor and we're not climbing anything in this end of the industry and the EV charging industry. So it really dovetails nicely, and that's why I'm able to call it sort of a near neighbor business. And I think everybody in the industry is. So your view of sort of educating people and making them look over the fence. You've done a lot of great programs that have helped the industry, whether it's safety stuff or training programs, education. Do you think that's something that will happen eventually, whether there's another association in EV, or that's something that maybe you folks take up in terms of education and advocacy, et cetera? How do you see that laying out potentially?
We partnered with other associations in the fiber space, in other adjacent spaces for training and education. We are the home of the Telecom Industry Association, Telecom Industry Registered Apprenticeship Program. It's called TIRAP. This certainly could be an area where there could be some additional cooperation and collaboration, either within our association or with other partnering associations. So I think it's something that we're certainly open to and want to take a look at.
That's great. And look, I think the show is really an outpouring of what's going on in the industry. When the industry is doing well, everybody loves to come to the shows and see their friends and educate themselves and see what's new and interesting. And when things are sort of on the downward ebb, it's more difficult to get a big turnout. So I think the opposite should probably be true. When there's a low ebb in things, that's when you need to get out there and meet people and talk to people and learn and find out other things, which is why I'm so excited about going and doing a panel there to talk to people. And I have a feeling that many of my old friends from the industry will be there. I've been at other shows. There's a conference that goes around the country in 3 or 4 or 5 different places. And at the events in New York, it looked like a wireless show in the first couple of years. Everybody who was there practically were folks from the industry. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
Can you lend any, if you will, on what's happening in the wireless space in terms of thinking about the capacity they're going to need for auxiliary businesses like EV charging? Do you think the carriers have a sense that they need to expand into the places where there'll be 12 people charging and downloading all at the same time? Do you think there's a mentality amongst the carriers to look over this side of the business?
There is definitely an area that I've heard, of our members have some interest in. Certainly encourage, folks that are listening to this to, out to us. And if there are issues that you're having, us a call. Let's talk about it. Let's figure out how we can kind of solve them together and be a part of that solution. Know that some of our members are looking at this space in others, right? It's, networks or charging or center issues. There are lots of things that we're hearing from our members, and they're trying to on how they're going to tackle this market. So, yes, I think that we are on the cusp of a lot of 5G deployments, 5G interesting applications with new, and yes, our members are looking at it, and we are here to support them all the way.
Well, you and I worked together on connected real estate back when, launched the Charged Up newsletter and website, where we have a library of articles that we've done about EV charging. And a good many of them, as a matter of fact, not this week, but last week, we did a story about connectivity and EV charging. So I hope people, if they are looking for resources, will go to Charged Up Pro and look at the material that we've put out there. Again, I think it's very important that they understand the communications piece of this, because times we see stations installed and then not working, and oftentimes it is a communications that's failed. And so it's really important that we get the brains of our business to be able to weigh in and help and repair those things, because the EV charging guys are not familiar with the stuff that goes on in our end of the business. So I think it's very important that there be sort of marriage of the two industries and the expertise that goes into it. So, trying to put as much information out about the communications piece and just the industry in general with our Charged Up newsletter each week. So, but Jason, it's been a pleasure talking to you, and I so look forward to the show in May. That's Chicago at McCormick Center, correct? When are the dates?
Correct. It is May through 14th of 2025. So
Gotcha.
we're going to be having all the industry there. It looks like it's going to be the biggest and best show we've had yet. That says something. So it's going to be a great time. We're so grateful to have you, Rich. Thanks so much for, to host that panel, and we can't wait to see all your folks at the show.
Yeah, I encourage all my friends from the wireless business, and all these years, somebody I talked to this morning was saying how many of my old employees from BCI coming for jobs, and they're talking to people who work for me. And in addition to that, I got on LinkedIn, an old BCI hard hat on, and a lot of people chimed in on that. So I hope that people who are looking for opportunities in the communication space will come and listen to what's going on in the EV charging the business. And I think, again, there's great overlap here. But again, thank you, Jason. You've always great to talk with you, and thank you for being here today. This is Rich Berliner from Charged Up, and I'm real glad for all of you to be out there watching. Thanks for supporting us.